So welcome to episode 2. In this one, we're going to be looking at how the brokerage model allows us to give a bit more of a bespoke service to our clients. We're also going to talk through what our top tips are for buyers and sellers. Again, luckily we've got Liz here who acts on both sides, so she can give insights into both. So I'll just start off a little bit before I swap in with Amy and just speak through the reason that I went and then subsequently chose this model was, as we've all said in the last episode, you can deal with everything from start to finish. I make sure that I go to every photo shoot. And so you haven't just got your photographer turning up, shooting what they think is right. No photographer goes out to do a bad job. Let's get that clear. I think some people do think that. But they might not get the exact shot that the agent spoke about on the viewing, on the market appraisal, that that would be a perfect shot for this house. And then they're not there and the photographer doesn't do it because they can't read minds. So it's even things like photo shoots. At the moment, I'm engaging, as we just spoke about, my top tip is to, as a seller, is to engage with your solicitor early. So for me, I'm looking at, we all look at the titles before we take on a property. So what I tend to do is say to my clients, well, what solicitor are you using? Have they checked over this title? Is there anything that's problematic in the outset that I can look at and say, okay, well, let's solve this now, because it's only going to cause us problems in the future. I don't want to deal with rights of access being a reason that someone withdraws from a property after they've just spent £2,000 on a survey and they've also spent £1,500 on their solicitor. It's the last thing we all want, because we're then a further 8 weeks away from earning any money. And anyone that comes into a estate agency and says they don't like earning money is a liar. We're all here, let's be frank about that. We want to provide a good service and get paid good money.
Absolutely.
So if you're selling a house, you should engage with your solicitor early. But that's where we can get involved with it. I don't take on any more than 15 properties at once. That's my rule. As soon as I get to 15, then the answer, if you call up for a market appraisal, is no, unless you're selling something at £65 million. Maybe we'll make a slight exception then. But the answer is no, because I can't then deal with what I need to deal with. So that it gives us that ability to do it. And I'd imagine that all of you would probably mirror that sentiment.
Absolutely.
The whole process is so key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think as well, you can even take it a step further. And this is something I've been having more discussions about lately, because it's come up and it's to do with getting yourself completely exchange ready. So the legal pack is going to be part of it. But surveys.
Yeah.
It really is. Every time I discuss it with somebody, it seems the first time anyone's ever mentioned it. And it's been born out of getting deals under offer. You go a couple of months through the process and the legals are instructed and it's moving ahead. And even where I have advised it, it's absolutely fine. We live here. There's no problems. It's not that old. Or we had the works done only 8 years ago. And you think, okay, that's fine. But that's to the naked eye.
Yeah.
What's the first thing that happens when you have any sort of reasonably priced or reasonable value property? You go under offer and the buyers are booking the survey in.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you're waiting for a couple of weeks for the appointment, and then it's a week for the report to be ready, and then it comes back, and then it's quote time, and you could be 2 months into the process, 3 months, and you're back to square one then looking for a new buyer because you haven't factored in this £200,000 worth of roofing work to be done.
And it's go and watch episode, I think it's 2, with Aaron McCluskey. I had a surveyor on talking about exactly this, how buyers sellers, getting a pre-sale survey. It doesn't have to be a full level 3 in-depth report. You can basically just do a major fuck-ups report of what are my major problems that I'm faced with, and are any of these going to destroy my property transaction? So I know that Aaron he's great for it. He will go and do a pre-sale survey.
Is that common? Do you find that your vendors will jump at that?
I'm finding more and more are open to it. And it's exactly as Ken says, it's pitching being exchange ready. How can you get yourself in the best position as a seller to have a swift exchange? Well, spending £1,000 plus VAT on your survey, that's a no-brainer, really. Let's say you're selling at $1 million, 0.1% of your transaction. So that's worth doing. When you think about what you'd pay your accountant if you were investing £1 million, you'd be you'd query your accountant if they were just charging you 500 quid, wouldn't you? And you'd do everything you could to get yourself ready so that you would invest that £1 million. And that's essentially what you're doing.
Yeah.
And And especially with things happening more and more where surveyors are paid to find a problem. Like that's what they're going in to do.
Yeah.
They're not coming there to write a clean bill of health for your house.
No.
They want to find something that's wrong. That's what they're there to do. That's
They
what
want
the client,
to justify themselves.
yeah, that's what the
don't
client's
they?
paying them to do. And if you got a survey back and it said, oh, there's absolutely nothing wrong at all, don't worry, you'd think, there's definitely
worried.
there's definitely something wrong.
I'd book another one.
Yeah, you would, wouldn't
Yeah.
you, as a buyer? So at least you know what you're faced with. And for us, it saves the fall through.
Yeah.
It saves the fall through and it also means you can price correctly because we're not surveyors, any of us, or none of us are building surveyors. I don't know certain issues and I'm not going around with a damp meter on my market appraisal. So a surveyor is going around with that and they are going to pick fault in things. And if we then suddenly know something needs 100 grand of roofing works, well, we can have that chat early doors and say, look, this is going to come up. So you need to face it, that your asset has got £100,000 liability to it. So that needs to be factored in.
I think tied in with this as well, something I've noticed when I'm speaking to clients is we're probably in a little bit of an echo chamber as agents. I'm certainly guilty of it and have been, where you assume people know what you know.
Yeah.
And when I discuss with sellers about, okay, well, if you're challenged on, I don't want to put the outlay of a couple of £1,000, and you go, well, did you know a third of deals fall through? It normally stops people in their tracks. Now, that's not just on repair works that might be needed. Obviously, we're talking chains, we're talking mortgages expiring, whatever it might be. But it is a substantial part. We've probably all seen it. I know I've seen it a number of times where the repair works to get it up to an acceptable standard rendered the property then overpriced based on what they were originally under offer. So you're then having the conversation for 8 weeks down the line where you're trying to either renegotiate the deal or somebody's they're put out by it and it's tainted the whole impression that they had of that property, and then they go and see something else. So
and then that's expensive for everyone.
Yeah.
For us, for the client, for the buyer, because everyone's invested money and time.
Yeah.
And as you say, you could be 8 weeks down the line and, there's something wrong.
And also the saleability of your property is substantially less after a fall through.
Yeah.
So if people see it come back to the market, buyers are trawling right move.
Oh,
So they know that your property went under offer and they now know it's back on. So
Why?
when they call us, the first question is, I saw that last time and I was half interested. Why is it come back on? And we are legally obliged to disclose
Absolutely.
why that is. You as a seller might not like us doing that. 20 years ago, we could have probably got away with telling a slight variation of what had happened. Whereas now we'll just get sued.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to put myself out there to be sued
No.
for a 15 grand fee. So I think it's something that we've got to
I think I come
consider on that
from
front.
an apartment background more than a housing background. And I think there you've got management companies, and the management company, you get the management pack and you can see what's been done. And if there is anything, that comes through fairly quickly. I think it's a really good idea to get a survey beforehand and to get sale ready. They tried that in this country when I was out of the country and it fell flat, didn't it? And why was that?
Are we going back to hips packs?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was overseas at that time, but
But they should be here.
They
But
should.
And I think
It didn't
100%.
quite take off, did it?
No.
And I think also from a buying perspective, as a buyer comes in and you say, well, actually the seller is committed to selling, they've already done their survey, we know XYZ is a problem, they're resolving this. The transparency and the trust, again, I
Yes.
think it's
Yeah.
trust. And when you have a situation where something comes up on the survey that you sort of think the seller may well have known about or that is a huge amount of money, it then becomes this sort of sour taste between the buyer and the seller that just really shifts this sort of power play and then negotiation, all of these things that then follow afterwards that, like you say, just erodes that trust and that relationship. And I think for me, I think
No, I
having
agree with
the
that.
transparency with your buyer as a buying agent, as a seller, it's just you're backing them in this transaction. You're trying to resolve the problems before they come. I think it's absolutely brilliant. We should all be doing this.
Sorry, I have an Australian come in and say they wanted to buy this apartment in Catherine Place in Bath. And he said, where do I sign? Where do I give you the deposit? And could I have the pack? And I said, come and sit down. Come and sit down. And he said, well, I want to buy it. And I said, yeah, I need to go through a few things. And he sat, and he's a big developer in Melbourne. He wanted to buy that apartment. He was here for 6 weeks. He wanted to move in.
There and then. He wanted it there and then.
Yes, he wanted it there and then. He wanted
Brilliant.
the pack. He wanted to pay, and he wanted to be in within a few weeks before he left. And I said, let's plan on your next trip, which is in a year. Then you'll be in, because, we simply couldn't do it in the time frame. And I went through how the process worked, and his jaw dropped. He couldn't, he's got hundreds of houses. He couldn't believe how we're selling. But I agree, it'd be lovely to give a pack. What was it called? The HIP?
Home information.
Yeah. It would have been...
They just disappeared.
Well, it sort of did it. And then there were lots of companies. Yes. Yeah. There were companies actually that started to form to create them. I remember there was this big sort of surge. There were lots of people sort of training to do them. And
that's right.
It all started to snowball, and then it fell by the wayside.
It's a shame.
It is. And I think, the survey is the key piece, isn't it?
Well, on episode 3, we'll have the answers to where it went wrong. So we can always come back to that one. I think something you mentioned, Sharon, about the management packs and being able to get them through at a good speed. I've got one foot in the London market and one foot in the Cotswolds. And a lot of what I deal with in London are apartments. And, okay, you have the odd couple that will come through in a reasonable time frame, but you can be months sometimes waiting on the management packs. And I think if it's this idea of exchange ready, it's not just on board with the solicitor or just the survey, it's also order your management pack and
that is something I do say to my clients right at the beginning. Make sure you contact your management company. Make sure you know what the time frame is from when you've got a buyer, because these things only stay live for 6 months.
Yeah.
So make sure that as soon as we have a buyer, you pay them. Don't go via the solicitor, which will take another week, and then a week for them to pay them. Go directly to your management company, pay the fee, and ask, how long is it going to take you to get this pack out? And before we start, check you've got those communal things like asbestos reports, fire reports, etc. And if you haven't, get your management company to get them done now to help your sale, because they're a legal requirement. But certainly management company, because before COVID, it would be 10 days. It's now 15 working days. It's like solicitors. I don't understand why we can't go back to the pre-COVID time frame.
Can I just say also, get a good motivated solicitor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure you have London solicitors and the country solicitors, and you're like, oh my God.
I'm lucky. I've managed to have a good little network now of just very speedy and diligent solicitors.
I can't believe the difference, though, from the London lawyers to the country Somerset.
Well, I think,
I don't know. I think there are good local solicitors, but I think you have to spend time and invest your time, efforts, whatever, in going out for lunch, meeting them, going to networking. I've got 2 or 3 solicitors who I swear by, and they will give the right service to the right individual, because characters are important.
Can you share with me?
Of course I can. But they're very, very good. And I want my buyers, particularly, to use solicitors that I offer them.
Exactly.
Because I want to phone a solicitor and say, could you jump? And I want them to say how high, rather than, I don't take a fee for referring solicitors. There's no way I'd take a fee.
No.
But some people do. And, the response from a solicitor can be, you've had your fee on this. I'll get to it when I can. Whereas if I build up a relationship with solicitors, they know I'm only going to give them work if they're good.
Yeah.
And so when I phone, they take my call.
And they give us lunch.
Yeah. Well, exactly. Do you know, I'm a similar boat. I have two that I have spent time with, had a number of transactions go through them, many others. And the conversation always goes the same with a buyer, I'll use this call centre or this and that. No, please.
No.
Again, I don't take referral fees. And it's amazing to me that I even have to justify that to the buyer and the seller. Shall I say?
Yeah. Shout out to Josh Gilbert at Tozers. He's who I use.
Oh, I use Dan at Gilbert Stevens and Kate Stamp, who is just wonderful. And
But this is your specific area. Yeah.
But I mean, both of them have been fantastic on a couple of recent ones, through in 4 weeks, just always on the phone, will always respond. And I appreciate that they're busy. I do understand that. And they are often, very spread thinly, but also so are we. So, we're all in the same boat and we should just be working together.
So true.
So
but if they tell you they're spread thinly, that's the thing you want them to tell you. Because then you'll use someone else that, is in your second tier or whatever.
Absolutely.
Because you can't actually just load stuff onto people and expect them to work at that pace if they're too busy. They're honest with you. I think that's really important.
I think there are obviously some issues with some solicitors who operate in the conveyancing side. But I do think as well, estate agents need to take a little bit of responsibility.
Yeah.
And this comes back to probably John's top tip, which is when you're sitting down with the client, get that ball rolling early. Don't wait until we've brought them an offer, it's been agreed in principle, and then you're thinking, okay, now we need to go and get quotes. I know so-and-so from the school gate, my old dog minder is now a solicitor. I'll go get a quote from them. And who do you know? I'll get a quote from them. And all of a sudden, there's 4 or 5 quotes banging around, and you're no closer to issuing a memo of sale.
Yeah.
So I think we need to probably signpost a lot better. And
good point.
With the right relationship, you will be told, I've got too much on at the minute. I'd love to help. Please come back to me. But at the moment, I'm snowed under. And that's the value in a good solicitor. But I do think agents need to be having these in-depth chats. And it probably swings back to what's the benefit of using somebody in our position, because we go on an instruction appointment or a market appraisal, and you're sitting with the client or the hopeful client. You're no longer in the big agency where your diary has been booked out by somebody in the office, where on the hour, every hour, you got to meet somebody. We can sit there and it might take an hour to walk the grounds and to whatever it is. Well, you then sit down and you take as long as you need to talk clients through this. And it's about getting them exchange ready. It's about giving them the information they need to know. So I mentioned earlier about a third of deals falling through. We probably know that as second nature, but a lot of vendors don't. 47% of property that hit the sales market in 2024 failed to sell. That's a staggeringly high number. And again, it catches people unaware.
Doesn't surprise me.
But then the conversation evolves as to, well, why is that? Largely pricing, but not only. It could be wrong choice of agent, wrong approach. So I think all of these topics that we bring up with clients, it leaves them better informed. And it means we walk away with we've done our job, we've given the advice, we've been as open as we can. And if you win that instruction, well, great, you have a much better chance of going on and selling it and the clients get what they want.
Of Movely, isn't it? Being able to do that whole package. As you just said, you're able, someone hasn't signed you out on numerous, you're there, you can spend as long as you like. You can eat another shortbread biscuit and another cup of tea and whatever. If it helps that client come to the realization that this is clear instruction, it's help, and you're giving them the right things to do to sell their property. And I think getting it sort of ready, as you say, is key.
Do you find your viewings and appraisals take a lot longer since you're at Movely? I mean, my viewing's like an hour and a half. Yesterday I had a 2-hour viewing.
You give it the time it needs, and that's why we should be used. Because
I know.
If you've got a serious seller in the door, the last thing a client is going to want is you're rushing them in, whipping them around, have a look at the garden. I've got to go now because I have another one in 15 minutes.
And that's how it was when you're with a corporate.
But can I say, I do think that's excessive for a studio apartment.
So we'll have more episodes coming, so please stay tuned, enjoy them, and subscribe, like, and follow. Thanks very much.